Welcome, everyone. Welcome back. Happy Thursday. We're almost there, almost to June. Thank you for taking some time today and joining us for Fresh Out of School, How to Become an Expert Paralegal, presented by Paralegal Brief and sponsored by Steno. I'm Tara, the webinar manager of Paralegal Brief, and I'm very excited to bring you this brand new session that's going to explore everything you need to know to thrive in your first years as a paralegal. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from Joe Stevens today and what I know is going to be a valuable and fun conversation. And just so you know, we will be recording this webinar in case you have to leave early. We'll be sending it to you by email within 48 hours. You can also visit the webinar registration page after today's session to view the recording there as well. And as a reminder, NALA CLE credit approval has been granted for this program, and this program qualifies for one CLE credit hour under the substantive category, as long as you are present here for at least 50 minutes. I'm going to send these notes in the chat for you to reference right now. Up next, before we go any further, I want to thank Steno for sponsoring this webinar, helping us to make this happen. Steno offers exceptional court reporting services combined with best-in-class technology and deferred payment options. Steno was built by tech and legal experts who saw a need for a better experience. They remove financial and technical hurdles so you can focus on the case. From creating bespoke solutions for your technical needs to providing flexible financing, Steno is revolutionizing the way court reporting is done. And you can learn more at steno.com. So thank you again to Steno. Up next, let's quickly get some technical things out of the way. Please don't hesitate to ask your questions during today's event. You can submit any and all questions into the Q&A panel found in the toolbar at the bottom of this window. I don't want any important questions to get lost in the chat, so please try to remember to use the Q&A panel if you have any questions you want to address during our dedicated Q&A segment near the end of the hour. And as I sort of mentioned, the chat is also open. I see everyone joining in there as well. Feel free to share comments, thoughts as we go along, and make sure the blue button in the chat box is set to everyone so you can be a part of the conversation. You can also use the react feature to send an emoji and let us know what parts of the presentation are resonating with you. I'm glad to see everyone sharing where they're joining from today. I am in Providence, Rhode Island. Closed captioning is available for this webinar as well, and to enable this feature, you can select the Show Captions option from the toolbar. And lastly, if you have any audio issues during today's presentation, you may choose to dial in by phone. All dial-in information can be found in your webinar confirmation email that you received from Zoom, and Tori can also relay it to you in the chat at any point if you need it. Up next. Again, today I'm very excited to hear from Joe Stevens. I'm sure some of you recognize him. Very lucky to be joined by him again. Joe's diverse professional experience ranges from direct client representation to working 3 legislative sessions under 2 different committee chairmen in the Texas legislature. And a graduate of the University of Texas School of Law, Joe combines his passion for legal tech with practical experience to help teams work more efficiently and is now teaching the next generation of legal professionals at Texas Tech University School of Law. So with that, I'm going to pass everything over to you, Joe, to get us started.
Thank you, Tara. I appreciate it as always. I love being here with you all. This is one of my favorite groups of people to talk to, paralegals in general, and then everything that Paralegal Brief does is just so well put on. So happy to be back. A couple of things. You're going to be able to get a number of materials after this. I have a bunch of slides here that I'm going to run through. Obviously, I'm going to get into this one that you're seeing right now here in a second. But I'm coming to you live from West Texas, from Lubbock, Texas. It's very hot here. There's a fly loose in my apartment, so if I look a little scattered, it's bothering me. That's the reason. Um, Ask your questions. I love seeing where like the chat is always so rich and active. We've got an extra amount of time at the end for your specific questions and answers. So we'll make sure that we really, really, really focus on those. And with that, let's just get going. I'm going to start with this slide, why you're here. So the whole idea here, when we were considering what to talk about today, one of the things that I think is really just critical to the legal sector, and this applies to many other sectors, but specific to the one that I'm in and that you're in, is just competence in general. And we're seeing this now being really emphasized, especially as AI makes its way into our practice a lot more. There is an active duty to sort of stay up to speed on how things are evolving and how your skill set can hone and develop. And what I really want to do is kind of get comprehensive, coming at this from a lawyer's point of view about some really basic fundamental things that you can do and that you can incorporate into your practice so that you reach the level of excellence that you're obviously here trying to attain and probably already have in some form or fashion already. So that's the goal of the next hour. Some of it is just me talking at a screen and talking to y'all, but the rich part at the end is really going to be where you get engaged. And so get your questions active, and we'll get to them at the back end. This is what we're going to do. We're going to talk about a whole different number of things and going to kind of spend some time on each of these, right? Like everything from communication to legal technology, ethics as well as something that's popping up. And you're going to see that intertwined a lot with AI. We obviously have to talk about AI because there's no such thing as a presentation or a CLE or a conference or a trade magazine right now that exists without some discussion of AI, and it's increasingly relevant. It's already here. And so, how all of this intersects together is the goal of the next hour. Then the QA session. Okay, remember, as a lawyer, right? I am coming to this from the point of a practitioner, from the point of view of a practitioner. But I also really want to pause for a second and say that that is not in any way, and I never, ever, ever want to talk to a group of people as skilled as yourselves and pretend that that's a hierarchical thing. The work that y'all do is incredible. It's underappreciated, it's thorough, it's expansive. You do way more than you get credit for. Sometimes, and I don't mean this in a practicing without a license way, but you do the work that that it goes above and beyond really what you're called to do. And so I just want to say thank you for that. And I want to make sure that anything that comes for the next hour is just coming to you from the point of a legal practitioner. And it certainly is not conveyed from a point of view of someone who is saying that this is the right way to do X, Y, or Z. This is just the way that I like to think about it. I had this conversation with an assistant of mine actually earlier today. Directions are wonderful to follow. That is not at all the highest and best use of anyone's mind. And to me, the thing that matters the most is actually everything that falls outside the directions themselves. I may have a request, an assignment, a task, something that I need help on. But what I really love is the anticipation around that. The person who sort of understands the substance of what I'm saying is fearless about asking questions so they know that I'm maybe clarifying what I haven't communicated clearly. And then sort of understands that there might be things around that as well that need attention. Uh, I think that that is, again, a really soft skill that's sometimes difficult to teach, but think of it as I was actually talking to Tara before the webinar about restaurants. Think of it as when you're in a restaurant and you have a really attentive server who doesn't get in the way, who it sort of understands that if you said X, then maybe Y is appropriate at the same time. This is a soft skill that I think is a really beautiful one to have, really difficult to quantify, but at the same time, the idea is we're all making our lives and our professional lives easier as a result. So with that, I kind of have a few boilerplate ideas and that might resonate with you. Okay. Um, Clarity is a thing that matters tremendously to me. That is the starting point. That's the initial engagement. I mean, whether it's a human interaction or an AI interaction, quite frankly, the two starting points are really, really, really important. How clear are you being? How clear am I being with the thing that I am being asked to do? Are you understanding what the deliverable is? Are you not understanding what the deliverable is because I'm not being clear about it? This is sort of a dynamic, right? This is a back and forth, but the clarity is the starting point that then allows you to be a little bit more creative. The precision itself is something that matters tremendously. Delivering the answer, delivering the work product that has been asked for obviously an imperative. And being able to do so, I guess, requires that you understand exactly what the task at hand might be, and then being able to repeat this practice over and over and over again. It's amazing how trustworthy and invaluable and reliable, irreplaceable you become, especially if number three happens here. The consistency of delivering that product in number two in a precise way and understanding, getting a really, really good firm grip of what is at stake. Like, what is the thing that is being asked to do? Once I have a relationship like that with a member of my team, it is unquantifiable. It is so, so, so valuable. So, this is the high level starting point. Um, let's talk specifics, right? Again, these might sound like really basic things, but it's amazing how much they come up in a professional setting. Before I started teaching at the law school out here in West Texas, I built and ran an office in a smaller part of West Texas, in San Angelo, and so many things that I just presumed were useful or that I thought were functional or that mattered to me either didn't matter to someone else, or the things that mattered to them didn't necessarily matter to me. This slide is a great example of this. This is such a small thing, but it's an immediate way to draw attention to your work product. Um, Specifying the time demand. Is it something that requires immediate attention? Do you have the action step in your subject line? Are you crystal clear in what you're asking? I had someone that I worked with, um, one of the best, most compassionate, wonderful people in the world, and did an exceptional job, but her emails took forever to get through. And there was nothing wrong with them. They were written beautifully. They were full of content that mattered, but they really needed an editor. And that's I grew up as a son of a journalist, right? Like my dad was adamant about word count and how words were used. So these were things that were drilled into me, but this was not a skill set that she had. And then I found myself spending a lot of time digging into a lot of information that I didn't need to dig into to get answers to questions that really could have just happened much more quickly. So this is just a really simple, basic starting point. Might sound simple. You might already be doing it. If so, wonderful. If not, or if there are some tweaks, just think about the efficiency of how you're communicating across all mediums, right? Going back to that last slide, though, the last thing, next steps and deadlines. I love communication where the thing is being communicated to me. It's crystal clear that this is a project that's now over with, or hey, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and I'll have it done by this time. Amazing. You've just sort of removed another email from our chain because now I know exactly what's coming up. Okay, documentation. Well, earlier today, I was recording a podcast with someone in the e-discovery world, and we were talking about documentation. I One of the lessons that I teach the young students, the graduating students at the law school here, is documentation. Again, maybe this is already a practice that you have and you're really proud of. Fantastic. If nothing else, feel good about that right now. For those of you who are thinking, is this something that is important? I will tell you that it is, to me, actually almost one of the most critical things that goes along with anyone who is a part of my team. The documentation of everything, whether it's phone calls, whether it's client communication, whether it's the time that you spent doing a certain task, whether it is the substance of that task itself. The idea is that everything that we do substantively can be recreated or verified by some sort of paper trail. Um, at its most extreme, I once tried a case in West Texas. It was a criminal case. And quite frankly, everyone knew that this person was probably guilty. The issue was that there was a chain of custody issue. Documentation was so weak that the state actually could not prove the case against my client. And that was a trial against the documentation at that point. Everyone sort of knew that there were a certain number of steps that just didn't take place. So organization matters. When in doubt, document. If there is The last slide was talking about efficiency of communication and with words. Like if I reduce this slide to one, it would be when in doubt, document. I wish I could see what people are saying in the chat right now, um, because I think that hopefully people really value the importance of this too. Okay, legal writing. Amazing. Here's another really functional practice area. Again, this is going to be preferential. I'm sure that some of you on this call have worked for people that have different preferences than other people that you've worked with. Um, these are just some basic hacks. I will say this, active voice versus passive voice, all of these things I think are things that were drilled into me in my education, being specific rather than being general, facts over opinions, et cetera, critical. Now, depending on what it is that you're doing, this is a wonderful way to be using AI. And again, referring to my journalist father, he would hate that I am telling you this, but I do think that this is a wonderful way of inviting a really powerful tool into the room to get a quick, immediate second look at something that you have drafted. And you can get it to focus, not necessarily on something you don't might not need it to be checking case law, for example. Ideally, you're not, but maybe you're just looking for some sort of grammatical tips. And there's a number of tools outside of ChatGPT and things like that that you could use as well to do this. But I really find it to be such in our industry that is so that the professionalism is so emphasized. It strikes me as such a difference maker when someone communicates in writing at a high level of professionalism. And now we have these tools that allow us to get there as well. So when we come back to Q&As at the end, I would actually love to hear any, or if anyone has them in the chat right now, any tools that they're using, any products that they're using on the legal writing front that they find to be really valuable. Legal tech proficiency beyond the basics. Okay, so if you're sort of stepping up your tech game a little bit, what tools do you have at your disposal? What have you been sort of how are you engaging across the entire life cycle of a case, not just with the case itself, but with the technology? It could be, depending on the size of your firm, that you have a really robust, rigid case management software platform where you're logging all your information. You're aggregating all of your time. Maybe that incorporates with your e-discovery platform. I'm not really sure. That's going to be really, really, really specific to y'all. But again, the focus of this is being an exceptional paralegal right out of school. What are the things that you can either adapt to that currently exist in the firm that you're working, with a lawyer that you support, whatever it might be, or where are the areas that you actually could add value by being, introducing something that doesn't exist? Look at the third one here for a second, document automation tools. Again, if people have anything in the chat that they want to sort of advise it specific product wise, because this comes up in questions all the time at the end, like, is there a specific example of a product that you use that could be beneficial? It'd be great to hear. Document automation is an amazing way to reduce the friction of a repetitive task. In my office here at the law school, it's a really small office, but I do take a caseload and I teach the students. We automate all of our initial filings. We have a bunch of automations that run, and it's incredible how much time that frees up so that we can actually go to work on the substance of cases. Maybe you are doing some of that. Maybe it can be maximized a little bit. We're pressed on a little bit more. Maybe it's not happening at all. And this is a way that you can immediately demonstrate value and say, hey, look, this is an idea that I have. Not for everything, maybe on one or two or three very repetitive documents. I'm not sure, just some ideas to consider. And then obviously legal research databases. We're going to touch on legal research a little bit more because I do think that there's a fascinating interplay between AI and legal research and the skill sets there. And there's also one to very much watch out for, which we'll talk about. Okay, again, case management software. Some of y'all are day-to-day already in this. You know exactly what tool you're using. You're in Clio every day. You're in My Case every day. You're in Litify every day, whatever it might be. You are managing, you know the ins and outs of it. Fantastic. A couple of things to think about. Are there options there of integrations with third-party platforms that either you could suggest, or you could bring in that might add value? I don't know. Are there ways of doing certain things inside those products that you're not doing already? For example, a lot of them now have document automation functionality. Is there a way that you could stretch the usability of the case management software that you already have? Um, this might sound abstract and high level, right? Like because I can't I don't know exactly what everyone's workflow is, but I guess the guiding question here would be just that. Do you have a case management software tool that you're using? Okay, if so, is it being maximized? This is more an invitation for y'all to think about whether or not there is space in there to sort of maximize your efficiency. Um, and not just efficiency, but like better the your highest and best use is obviously your brain, and it's the things that you provide from an analytical, from a work, from not just the rote task point of view. If there are things, and technology now is giving us these tools across the board, are there ways to make that even more efficient, more powerful? That's the invitation here. Um, are there data reports? Are there analytics that you can run? A lot of the different platforms have different, ways that you're tracking data. Are you able to look at that data? Do you want to look at that data? Do you want to spot different parts your of your workflow where things could be improved or tidied up? Anyway, the software is there. If you're using it, great. See if you can use it more deeply. If you're not, maybe there is a value add in exploring different options. Research. Okay, this is amazing. Again, I wish I could keep an eye on the chat at the same time, but I can't. So I like that it's active. I think it's fantastic. Research, obviously, research is research. And there's ways now that, I mean, you're all familiar with it. You know that the big platforms exist. You're probably using one. Maybe some of you have familiarity with both. Um, or beyond Westlaw and Lexis. Uh, AI is obviously now a part of these two platforms. How robust the internal AI is there, I think, still probably needs time, just like all AI is evolving. So it is internally with Lexis and Westlaw. Um, the critical thing there is that it is still and beyond important to verify the output of what the AI is telling you. I've still seen systems hallucinate, even though Westlaw and Lexis have robust access to a huge body of case law. They will still sometimes cite a case that might have been, the holding doesn't necessarily apply to the case, or it's incorrect, or whatever it might be. Okay, so research, you can obviously use the AI inside if this is something that you're allowed to do, if this is something that your firm permits, if there's no sort of AI policy against it. Critical here is to verify the output. No matter what state bar is regulating the use of AI right now, I can tell you that one of the pieces is that you have got to be able to validate what it is telling you and whether or not that's correct. So do that. Don't use ChatGPT to do legal research and expect things to go okay. Just don't do it. Not a good practice. That's not its highest and best use. Stay within your legal research tools to do it. Um, I will also say, if you do want to incorporate and you do have this flexibility and you don't know exactly what you want to research, that's a really good use case to use AI. You can go into whatever you're using, and maybe it is ChatGPT. Be careful with what information you're always putting into AI, but ask it. This is the task that I've been assigned. I'm supposed to be looking for cases that hold this or are about X, Y, or Z. Give me some terms to use inside Westlaw or Lexis. So you can use those two in a really friendly, cooperative way, but don't look for ChatGPT to do your case law research. Um, I wish I had this at my disposal when I was a younger associate. Document automation. We spent some time on this before. Build your templates. Think of the one document that you are generating time and again that takes the most time. See if you can automate that. That doesn't mean that it has to look the same, by the way. It means that the substance of the document can look the same, but where there might be a couple of slight differences. The client name, you can use Google Forms. You can structure your automation so you're only inputting the information that's going to change, and then it'll generate a document that is going to take you way less time, obviously, because it's being automatically generated. So that would be the starting point if you're not doing it already. Pick the one or two or three documents that are taking the most amount of time to generate and then go about trying to figure out your automations around that. And it's so much more intuitive now through, I mean, Google Forms is a great way of getting that process starting. Ethical boundaries, know your limits. Great. This is critical, like beyond critical now, especially when it comes to AI. Everything here on this screen is something that probably has been brought to your attention in the past. I mean, obviously, unauthorized practice of law is a critical thing, but if you're working with a good team, that should never be a worry whatsoever. Conflict checks, these have not gone anywhere, and these are not going anywhere. Same with client communications. Where the ethical information right now um, is ethical information, where the ethical boundaries are being most considered, has to do with AI usage. And I will just dwell on that for a second, because we're going to talk about AI in a second a little bit more deeply. But generally speaking, the any sort of AI product you're using has to be secure, that has to be validated. Any output of the AI has to be verified. And then when it comes to time tracking, you've got to track your time. Even if you're doing something in a tenth the amount of time, that's the amount of time that it took. And obviously, bills as a result of time saved by AI usage can't not can't be inflated. Not that they would be, but we've seen some state bars actively, proactively say, if you had a 10-hour project that took you one, you're billing 1 hour for that, not 10, which seems intuitive, but some state bars feel the need to be explicit about that. Ethics remain just as important. One of the great reasons that you're here. So thank you for being here to even just learn and focus on that. Um, this might just be I don't know. I don't know how this is going to land with y'all. I mean, this might feel really intuitive, but I do think, again, as you advance in your career, one of the big difference makers that you will find is how you go about solving problems. Do you understand what the problem is? A great question. For whatever reason that resonates with me, there are two, regardless of the issue, regardless of if I'm dealing with a staff concern, dealing with something in court. What problem am I trying to solve? We need to be able to quickly and specifically say what the problem is. And then let's jump ahead. What does success look like? How do we go about solving those? Those two, for whatever reason, work with me all the time. And it makes a very noisy set of circumstances really naturally create a path to a solution. So those work for me. I wonder what it will be for you. I can tell you that if I have someone by my side who can solve a problem and I can trust them to solve a problem and ask the right questions, again, unquantifiable how important and magical that skill set is. Client relations and practice management. This is another soft skill, but again, critical. How are you with the people that we're dealing with? Um, I know, again, this might sound really, really, really basic and intuitive, but it's the difference. Again, going back, I think in restaurants, sometimes I spend a lot of time working in restaurants. You are the fate. Like, who are we sending up to the table? Who do we trust to send up the table in moments of difficulty? Who do we send up to the table that had to wait an extra hour before their table was ready, right? Like the analogy here is that same client engagement. That doesn't mean not having a backbone, by the way. I really think that one of the greatest skills that someone can learn is when and where and how to deploy that backbone, and making sure that rules are followed and boundaries are set and you know what the task is and you can clearly identify that, keeping your poise, managing expectations. These are really difficult skills to learn. I say this to my students all the time. Like, I can teach you the rules of evidence. These are the ones that take reps. So even if this is just bringing this to the top of your mind as you move forward, I think it's worth it. I'm going to kind of let this slide speak for itself. I mean, managing expectations. This is a really interesting one too, but the top bullet is the takeaway here. Like, we've heard this a million times. You hear it all the time, just everywhere. Under promise, over delivered. Do that, and you're golden. Um, I love to have status updates. I love to get, if it's a project's taking a while or it's got a lengthy time frame, I love to know that I'm getting a little bit of a check-in and I don't have to sort of hunt someone down. Or if I am the one reporting to someone, when I was a younger associate, I would ask that up front when I'm getting the task and the assignment. Okay, it looks like this is going to take 6 weeks, a month. How would you like to be? Do you want me to keep you up to speed weekly? Do you want me to let you know anytime there's, because on the flip side of that, I've worked with people before who feel the need to update me after every single, and I've done this before to people before, and it's annoyed them tremendously. So getting that expectation set from the jump is a really great way to actually then know how to manage those expectations down the road. Anticipate questions before they're asked. That was on the first slide too. That's on this slide. Like, I don't know how to teach that. There's some sort of psychic ability there, some anticipatory ability that I don't know if you really can ever quantify how brilliant that is. Deadlines, obviously, you know, having a list of questions up front, if I went back to the last slide, let's say you're in receiving some sort of assignment or you have a task that you're trying to accomplish. Knowing how to deliver updates, it seems like a really basic thing, but getting that crystal clear from the outset. Just update me weekly. Let me know where things stand. Okay, great. The deadline master. Okay, so it sounds like you want this in 2 weeks and then this in 4 weeks, and maybe we want this by the end of the day. Is that right? Get that just crystal clear so that we eliminate all the guesswork. And then the billing procedures as well, right? Like this is going to be a combination of the things that we've already talked about. If you are deadline oriented, you have an understanding of what the task is, and you're going to work on the solution and therefore documenting things, your billing is going to be very easy to sort of discern and track. And no one's going to come to you and say, well, sorry, what did you spend this hour doing? Um, Again, erring on the side of understanding how people like to have information communicated to them and figuring that out from the jump and then just according with that practice from the get-go. I will say the people, the young lawyers, the young paralegals, the young legal assistants who build these practices in early, it becomes second nature. And then you don't even think about it. Um, Case progress tracking systems, just a thought, right? Like, I don't know how you do that. A lot of case management software will allow you to update as the case progresses, so you can have an internal way of sort of tracking that. Some people do it on their own with spreadsheets, and that might be a personal value. I think when we're dealing with case management software, the idea obviously is to make sure that everyone has a line of sight into where things stand. So the degree to which you can do that internally with your case management software, I think, is of the highest value. And again, the statuses where appropriate that go along with the case progress itself. AI. Okay. We could talk about AI forever. I imagine there are probably going to be some questions about AI. So the question that I asked about document automation, let's sort of use that model for AI as well. Okay, first of all, are you able to use it in your practice is a question that I would have. Some firms say no unless there's an exception. Some firms are like, yes, just let us know. Some practitioners don't want it. Some practitioners are using it a little too frivolously. Understanding what you can and can't do with AI is step number one. Step number two is understanding the security of the AI product you're using. If you put sensitive information into ChatGPT, that information is being retained by ChatGPT. It is using that information to train ChatGPT. Other models don't do that. Other products don't do that. You've got to know whether or not your AI product is doing that. Okay, you vet the tool, but then use it. Like if you can, this is the way to differentiate yourself. There's nothing like it. In the same podcast that I was referencing, which we have at Steno, we've talked to practitioners who have been practicing for 5 years, 40 years. There's been no sort of tech revolution like the AI insertion into the legal sector. So, what I would say, just like the document automation, pick one or two or three documents that take the most of your time. AI is the same. Is there an area where you're spending the greatest amount of time and you think that AI could help? A great one for paralegals is transcript summaries, like transcript interaction. Build a timeline of events. Go through this transcript and identify anything that I could include in a motion in limine. Summarize this. Pit these three transcripts against each other. Did these witnesses contradict each other? The time saving is tremendous. And I am a big evangelizer of AI productivity. And so, this kind of ties into what I was saying from an implementation point of view. Is it implemented already? Are there ways that you could bring it in a little bit more loudly? Um, are there products? And again, in the chat here, I wish I could sort of pay attention to, but are there products that people have brought in to their practice that they are finding great value adds with? Uh, I don't. The degree to which you can use it is ideally up to you, but if it is firm limited, or then so be it. But maybe there are ways that you can sort of show the value add, the time saving, so that you can go about doing things that are of your highest and best use. We're about 5 minutes away from Q&A time, so I want to make sure that we get there and get there nicely. But um, th 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 I do think that people should be an event willing to, at the end of the day, your work should speak for itself. Um, but you should also have at the ready some really good examples of the brilliance that you're bringing to the table. And keep those. Don't be afraid of those. Don't hide from those. Don't be ashamed of those. Like sometimes people think that that's like a narcissism or that doesn't mean that you're trumpeting them around. But when things get difficult or you feel uncertain or you're given a task that you don't know, sometimes the best thing that you can do is reflect back on things that you have done and you've done really well that you're proud of. And so I actually think that that's just a good human principle. Ideally, you're working with people who celebrate the quality work that you do. But don't be afraid to sort of pat yourself on the back, even if it's just quietly after a busy day or a week of handling something in an exceptional way. And again, we would always prioritize celebrating that publicly when someone had a success or a win like that. And I think that this falls into that category as well. Look, here's a sample action plan. I don't know what that means for you. I don't know if this is adoptable, but it's a structure, right? Maybe these are the things that if someone said to you, okay, explain to me what your first 3 months at our firm would look like. You can now say, okay, well, look, in the first couple weeks, this is what I want to emphasize, but I want to let you know that I've already learned this. And then I want to move on to this and this and this. It's structured, it's thoughtful, it gives a sense of organization, and I think it's a really attractive way to go about um, getting up to speed and launching yourself into something that maybe the unknown a little bit. All of the resources you know that you have at your disposal. This is a wonderful group. You're going to get my contact information at the end. I hope, just like after every webinar, someone always reaches out. I hope that that continues. And again, let's flip it around and go negative for a second. If we had to sort of put the shadow side to this together, these are the things to avoid. Um, uh, the person who wants to be better, who comes into my office, whether it's in my case, a student, another lawyer, an assistant, and who sits there and says, look, do you have some time in the next couple of weeks? I've got some things that I want to ask you. I want to make sure that I'm doing things the right way. If you've got that mindset, then these pitfalls are ones that you will avoid. Success stories goes back to what I was just saying a second ago. What are your success stories? Here are some examples on the screen of some success stories that you can bring into the practice. But what are the ones that you're striving for? What are the ones that 6 months from now you can actually sort of hold up and say, these are the things that I accomplished? And I think that those are wonderful sort of benchmarks to strive for as well. So the last takeaways here are, use the technology, don't be afraid of it. Um, Take some of the concepts here, whether it's the basics of the email communication to the AI incorporation, and just sort of pick up on the headlines. How can they be inserted? How can they be bettered? How can they be deepened? How can they be mastered in your practice? Um, and don't forget to document everything all the time. Um, Again, AI, we've talked about this a little bit, so I'm not going to spend much time on this slide. I really want to get to your questions here in a second. But AI is something that I feel also very practical. Uh, what is the word I'm looking for? Passionate. I feel very passionate about it. It's a real time saver. I've seen it be beneficial. You'll see my email at the end. If you have questions about it at the Q&A, let's talk. But otherwise, feel free to reach out to me about it. And we can talk everything about AI itself from this last slide to the actual learning curve and getting comfortable with it. Sample prompts, sample products. And I've seen that the chat is full of some of those products. There's a whole world out there of now, including myself. You can put me in there to help you with AI as well. Um, this should not be a surprise to you, right? This is now sort of a summary of everything that we've talked about. Be the brilliant paralegal. The brilliant paralegal is irreplaceable. It's an unbelievable. It makes the everything move and work. I think that that's what you're all here to do. And so I really appreciate the attention that you've given it. Obviously, you're continuing your education. This is what we're here to do today. And don't be afraid to reach out. As a lawyer, I love it when people do. So again, you get my contact information at the end. This is it right here. And Tara, I think, right on time for our 12, or my time, 12:10 Q&A. But you're seeing my contact information on the screen. So take it, follow me, connect with me on LinkedIn, email me. And if I don't answer your question in the next few minutes, let's talk after.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Joe. Wonderful presentation, as always, full of valuable information. Before we do dive into questions, just reminding everyone that now is the time to get straight from the source insight from Joe. Please remember to use the Q&A panel to submit any questions so I don't lose them in the chat. If you do have to run, don't worry, we understand. Just know today's session is being recorded and will be emailed to you within the next 48 hours. And if we don't get to your question or comment today, again, as Joe said, please feel free to follow up with him after the webinar. His information is on screen and it will be in the chat as well shortly. And the last note I have is don't forget to register for the next webinar in our Paralegal Masterclass series, Prep with Purpose, How to Build Better Trial Binders with our very own Joe Stevens. So that link will be in the chat for you now as well. And we will see you there. Okay, with that being said, let's dive into some questions. We did get a lot of good ones. Um, so let's see. The first one I'll touch on here is from Monica. How do you stay updated on your legal tech knowledge? I no longer have access to it since I graduated, unless I pay a lot of money.
I think that's a great question because if you go to a trade show right now, like there's so much of it and you don't even know where it all would slot in or how it would add value. I'm going to just say, I was just scrolling through the webinar chat here. Um, this group seems to have the answers to those questions. Um, I don't know how everyone communicates outside of this with the paralegals, but like the tools that have just been thrown around in here and the different ways that people are experimenting, incredible. So I would honestly have taken a list of what everyone put down here. Outside the box, one thing you can do is you can actually ask AI for examples of these different products. Um, and then so those are the two probably best answers that I would tell you. Otherwise, you're just going to have to be something of a little bit of a like a tech nerd and be sort of reading these different product blogs and just plugging yourself in that way. But I'm not that at all, and I still feel inundated with all of the tech products that are out there. Start with this group though, and I would write down the dozen that I just saw and scrolling a quarter back up through this chat.
Thanks, Joe. And I will also just throw out there that I will save this chat and I will send it to everybody after the webinar as well. I know there are a lot of really valuable resources that have been shared. So don't worry about taking the notes. Okay, moving right along. Question coming in from Megan. Can you share some ways that you organize your thoughts when documenting things? Maybe a common structure or a common way to write things down. So much information, it can get messy when taking notes. How do you stay organized, maybe? And what would you like to see?
Yeah. So I have a couple of things. Well, one is now it depends on the way that things are being documented. If you're on a Zoom call or you can use an AI tool there to actually digest the content of the entire meeting and give you a recap. You're seeing that happen more and more on Zoom calls. You can do it from your phone as well. So if you're sitting through a meeting, you can have that sort of running on this. Now, if you're talking about like just personal documentation, um, I, honestly, there's so many different tools that people use to organize that. I still go inside my phone and I will just have a basic list. That is truly, truly, truly it. And that's a way for me to have it across all of my different sort of devices that I'm running on. People use more complicated, like Evernote has been around for a while. People use things like that. I honestly stay within the note on my phone, and that has just simple and easy and does not fail me. If you went into ChatGPT right now though and asked, look, I'm looking for a product that will help me do this, 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 and this, it'll spit out a number of options that you can look into. And I think that that would also be a really good starting point because mine feels a little bit dated, even though it works for me.
Thank you, Joe. And moving right along here, I have this may be a difficult question, but I think you can handle it. And it's coming from Anonymous. As someone just transitioning into this career, at this specific kind of historic moment in time, how do you balance personal ethics when they may not be reflected in behavior displayed by your firm, attorneys, government?
Yeah, I mean that's a real that cuts to such a really a difficult part of this practice. Like, you're doing a job and you believe in the work, or and then you're surrounded by noise that makes you wonder if the ethical underpinning of the work aligns with your own values. I mean, there are people out there who would say, at its most radical, you need to stop doing that work and you need to stop. But not everyone has that luxury, right? I mean, not everyone has the ability to sort of up and leave. Ethical conundrums are so incredibly difficult to deal with. Now, then it just becomes a question of what needs to be surfaced to who, and what are your priorities, right? And the reason I say that is, um, I've been in positions before early in my career where I was faced with the same thing. I was also in positions where if I had lost my job, I would have not been at all. It would have made things incredibly difficult. But I didn't want to be blind to the ethical conundrum that was in front of me. And so, without knowing the particularities of what you're facing, for me, the way I was able to get through that was understanding that I was going to not be there. My plan was to find somewhere else, and I was going to do everything in my power to expedite that process. And then after, I was also going to document the things that I wanted to document so that people knew what I was facing, and people knew that if it was going to, if it got more egregious than what it already was, that I had a really verifiable sort of resource. It's really, really, really hard to navigate in that space, especially if you don't have the flexibility to just leave that space. If you want to talk about that offline more specifically, I'd be more than happy to, because as I said, that was a really dark time and difficult time for me early in my career, and I didn't really know how to navigate it. And in hindsight, I wish I'd done a couple of things a little bit differently. So I'd be happy to chat more specifically about that offline.
Thank you, Joe. I know that was a little bit of a tricky one.
It's a great one though. I
Yeah,
love
it
questions like
is.
that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so my next question is coming to you from Mary. Mary is brand new to the paralegal field after 8 years and some other work, and brand new to her firm. She's 2 weeks in, and she's only had three partners or associates engage with her. She's asking, how do I initiate relationships within professional boundaries so that I can show attorneys what I'm capable of?
Okay, great question. And I did see, if I'm not mistaken, Tara, uh, that there was another sort of similar question, but I don't know. Let's just stay on this one. Um, Before I answer that, by the way, Tiffany, you're exactly right. We could do a whole webinar on breaking law. Like that, we could do that in answering the prior question. I'd love to chat to sort of get involved in this one too, because this is going to be a stylistic thing. It's going to depend on your personality, Mary. First of all, welcome to being a paralegal. Second of all, don't think that you're late to being a paralegal either. Like, I find the richest professionals in a lot of ways, very often come from totally different worlds, bringing a totally different skill set, spanning different careers. The things that you learn elsewhere are always going to have application, even if you think they don't have application. So I'm not sure if that was a concern at all, but please don't think twice about that. You've only had a few people engage with you. Okay, so then the question, I'm a, believe it or not, I'm kind of an introverted person, especially when it comes to how I sort of exist in an office. I want my interactions to be purposeful and meaningful, and then but I'm not the person who's sort of just hanging out, chatting, and organizing happy hours and things like that. I don't know what your personality is. First of all, don't tweak that. Don't be someone that you're not. Um, but if it is you really wanting to proactively reach out to people, one is I would see if I don't know if there are social things that your firm puts on, but obviously be present at those. The other is reach out. just reach out, introduce yourself, ask for 5 minutes to have a cup of coffee or pop by and introduce yourself. And use those sessions, use those interactions, not to like trumpet who you are. Your work is going to speak for itself. I find the most appealing thing about a new hire to be actually curiosity. Like, what are you going to be asked? What questions do you have? Do you have questions about the way things like how do you like certain things being done? Um, how, where do you like someone in my role? Where do you how do you see them being really successful? How do you measure success at this role? What is a way that I can help you? Whatever your line of questioning is there, I think his curiosity should underpin it all, but don't use it as a session to sort of be like, hey, look, this is my resume, right? They'll learn that you're a part of the team. They've obviously vetted you to be a part of the team. Go in with curiosity, ask for things, take things on, and that performance will speak for itself. Um, don't be someone that you're not, though. If you're introverted and quiet, that's totally okay. If you're outspoken, whatever it is, just be you, and then find your way in. Initiate a meeting or two here or there. That's what I would say to you.
I love that. Thanks, Joe. We have a couple of questions I want to just touch on from Mitchell. Um, what do you mean by creating attorney-specific templates, and how do you create an intelligent template? Kind of going back for a moment.
Um, I, Tara, I always get distracted by the chat, and
I know.
Dana just said something. Many new attorneys have no idea what we do. So true. Also, you do things way better than new attorneys do, like way better than new attorneys do. So, uh, there's that too. Anyway, yeah, you guys do amazing work. Attorney temp. Well, this depends. This is a great question. It depends on the tools that you use. So in my office, um, we have everything run through Google. So we have Google Forms, and then I have specific. So it kind of gets a little technical to answer this question. So if again, this is something we could do outside of this, I'd be happy to. But I just set up based on the different attorneys that I'm working with or who are working, with me. I will have Google Forms reflect different things that are particular to their practice. And then our legal assistant does a masterful job of updating that. That sounds really vague, but that's just kind of the high level products way that we've set it up. And then to get any more detailed than that, I'd really have to just show you how we set up our Google Forms. Um, there's so many other tools out there, and I don't know what case management software you're using. I don't know what document automation you're using, but you can be really specific as to who the audience is that's receiving certain things. Again, I'm really unhappy with how vague that answer is, but I kind of feel like that could be a whole webinar in and of itself, like tech specific products and how to set them up and how to do exactly what you're talking about. Reach out to me though if you want to do this more specifically offline. Happy to help.
Thanks, Joe. Moving right along here, we have some time for a few more. Um, Amy has a great question. I'm sure people are thinking of it, but maybe not thinking of it. How do you prevent burnout?
You, um, I don't know, but I do know because I've been burnt out. And then, okay, there's a couple of things that are important. You need to be working in a place, ideally, that doesn't see busyness as an often like as the key metric of success. You need people need to realize you need to be ideally culturally there is this idea that the work we do is important and it matters, but that life is so critical outside of it. Like the thing you don't want to be missing graduations and school events and think like it's just not worth it. Not being ashamed or embarrassed to take the time that you have that is yours and drawing those boundaries. Um, when you're off, be off. When people are not working and they're on vacation and they reach out to me, I'm like, you need to put your phone away. Stop working. Um, we do live in a culture, I think it's shifting now a little bit depending, but the legal industry is a little bit slower to pick these things up. Busyness is not a success metric, nor should it ever be. If you do things and and you get things done, you should be disconnecting and having time outside of work, and then obviously not letting it get in the way of things that matter the most. Now, if it does get to a point where you're feeling really burned out, ideally you have a safe audience within your practice, your firm, to go to and say, look, this is what is going on, this is how I'm feeling. I would like to Here's the solution that I envision. I'd like to take this much time next week because you have it, whatever it might be. The particulars there, up to you. But culturally, ideally, you're vetting a place that you're working so that they can understand too. And they also believe that non-work time is critical for happiness.
Yeah, a lot of people resonating with kind of your response there. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, burnout is real and it's everywhere. Um, okay, let's see. My next question is coming in. I've seen this come in a few times, a few different ways where people are working in very specific and unique areas of law. I've seen asbestos, personal injury, tenant law, things like that. Are there any resources where they can go to gain, kind of more specific knowledge, without going to law school?
Yeah, Maddie, this is a great question. Now, depending on the level of specificity, honestly, you AI is an incredible tool. You can ask any question and then ask another question, ask another question. And now, if you're not using it for case law research, like it's going to give you a nice lay of the land. There's obviously online trainings that you can do, but they're going to cost money. Um, I think with the free tools that we have at our disposal, okay, side note, I'm taking my next sommelier, my wine exam. There's so many things out there that I have, like books and resources and classes. The best, quickest study aid that I have had is by sitting sometimes if I'm going AI, like tell me what this is, grape is versus this. It's the same with law. I've done it before when I have been unfamiliar with a legal concept. It's really good because it's trained on this information and it's trained to give you that. I would start there and I would dig in. I would start with a prompt. Um, Asbestos person, give me the lay of the land on asbestos person, and then when you read the answer, be like, okay, tell me more about this, tell me more about this. I'm a paralegal, I just want a broad base of information. That's where I would start, and I would use it as my own personal tutoring session. I'm sure other people have ideas and have subject matter specific ideas in the chat too, but that it would be the first place I would start.
Yeah, great idea. Um, okay, let's squeeze in one more. This question is coming in from Susan. How do you get your staff, including attorneys, to respect your time and have them be a little more self-sufficient? I find my staff constantly asking me questions and inquiring about direction. Getting a little frustrated, would love some guidance on how to do this with I words and not you words.
My goodness. Um, I love this as an end to this. This could be this feels like it should begin a therapy session for all of us. Personal and professional boundaries are kind. Um, it is such an expression of kindness when someone sets boundaries and then respects yours. Um, it's really hard if there's a power structure where you feel like setting a boundary is a sign of weakness or limitation. It shouldn't be that. But if you feel like what you're doing is making so that like a lawyer is going to be like, well, I can't go to you now because blah, 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 blah. I have no time for that anymore. I don't think that that's really a kind way to operate. The way that it starts at the end of the day is you at some point have to figure out what the boundary is, what line is being overstepped, and then figuring out the right way to communicate that to your audience. Does that something that you want to put in an email? Is that something that you want to just pop in and 10 minutes and say, look, this is what I'm experiencing. I want to make sure that I focus on the things that I'm here to focus on. I don't know how you want to phrase that, but there is nothing that you can do outside of understanding which line is being overstepped and then at some point figuring out the right mechanism of enforcing that. uh, Without limits, like empathy without limits is not empathy. Kindness without limits is not kindness. It's same with work. If you are saying yes or being thrown that's not work. That's like an indentured servitude that's not healthy. So figure out which lines are being overstepped, clearly have a concept of what they are, and then express them to the person in a very crystal clear way that is respectful of their time as well. There's no other way of doing it.
Thank you, Joe. And with that, that is all the time we have for today. I know there are some questions we didn't get to touch on. So, again, Joe's information is in the chat. Please feel free to follow up with him directly. I know he's always happy to connect and chat. Before we go, I would just like to encourage you to participate in the quick survey that will pop up in your browser when this webinar closes. We take all of your feedback into consideration, so thank you in advance. Thanks again to our sponsors, Steno and Joe. A big special thank you to you for a phenomenal presentation and for answering our questions today. Thanks, Joe.
Of course, always reach out to me if you have any other questions.
Absolutely. A huge thank you to all of you for joining us today. It was great to see some familiar names, some new names. Again, my name is Tara, and I hope you have a great rest of your day and an easy Friday. Take care.